coming, the sun's zooming in, meltdown expected, the wheat is good there, engines stop running, but I have no fear, 'cause London is drowning. I live by the river.
Hello everyone and welcome to the By the Minute Arsenal podcast, our 35th and penultimate of what's been a very long season, it seems. We are doing this just after the end of the league season. Obviously we still have a cup final to worry about, but the league season finished yesterday. We'll be talking about that. We'll be doing a bit of a review of the season, and I dare say we'll be talking about anything else that comes into our heads. But before we go on, introductions. Unlike the Arsenal backline next week, we are at full strength tonight. So I am Matt H. With me is also Matt V. Hello, Matt.
Evening. I'm glad we've made it this far in the season. Traumatic at times, but we've stuck together.
We have. That's a very nice way of putting it. We also have Pete. Hello, Pete.
Hello, Matt. And Matt, it's almost over.
It is. I know what you mean. There is that sort of thing to it, isn't there? That we're getting there, and we're going to creep over the line. But there we go. We'll get there. Right. Well, the normal routine. I think we will look at the previous games this week, which were another 2 wins. Though ultimately, of course, they did not get Arsenal that top 4 spot. Then we'll have a little preview of the cup final. But in between, we're going to have the start of our sort of season review. We're going to have 2. We're going to do most of that next week, but we're going to do a little bit as well this week, just to keep things fresh, as it were. So, well, let's zip through the games in order, just to keep up the routine that we've done so far this season. Anyway, I appreciate there's sort of bigger issues here, but we'll go back to Tuesday. Arsenal played Sunderland. Arsenal beat Sunderland 2-0. Had to wait for the 2 quite late on. But at the time that seemed lovely because it kept us in with at least a vague shout of the top 4. Pete, I think you were there. Any thoughts on this sort of in general before we go into any bits and pieces?
No, we did what we needed to do, I think, and that was about the most that could be asked, and they did it. It was all a bit late, but actually I thought in general, even though the win came late in the game, actually we played pretty well throughout, certainly deserved the win, never really were in any trouble. I know Sunderland had a couple of good opportunities in the first half, but really they weren't up to anything, and we didn't have anything to worry about, and eventually we got the winning goals. So it was pretty standard home win against Sunderland as far as I can see, but the pressure was on a bit, and to make sure that we at least gave ourselves a chance, and we did that. So I think fairly positive.
Yeah, I mean the thing to say here, of course, is that we I think we're almost obliged to say it with any Sunderland game this year that it would have been more if it wasn't for Pickford, because certainly he looked pretty impressive to me. I was starting to worry slightly it was going to be one of those nights, but obviously he can't keep Arsenal out himself for the whole evening, but he's a very good keeper. Certainly did a good job. Matt, any thoughts on the team or any other aspects of the game before we go into some of the other bits?
Like Pete, I thought we played pretty well. I know some people spoke about goal difference, but I don't think catching City was ever a real possibility. So it's just about keeping our winning run going to put some pressure on Liverpool and ultimately just continue our momentum. And as you said, Pickford continued what many opposition's keepers seem to do when they come to the Emirates. Have very, very good games, but eventually we just about got the win and set us up for the weekend and the cup final, I guess.
Yeah, it's nice. We obviously we had to win that. Otherwise, I don't know what kind of mental state the team would have been in yesterday. But they did win, and it was 2 goals from Alexis. But before we get into that, so Giroud started. There perhaps weren't the changes we might have expected in terms of sort of keeping things fresh. Ramsey was playing, but I was slightly surprised there weren't more changes. Although, Pete, am I vaguely right in remembering that was something you suggested might not happen? If you'll excuse that rather tortured sentence.
No, I was saying I was worried that there would be a lot.
That's it. Yes.
In order to rest people, as it were, and I was very glad to see they weren't. So I thought, on the whole, the team selection was pretty good. Shame Koscielny wasn't available, but did well enough without him. And Even Giroud played his part, as I remember. So
he did. I was worried about his groin actually, because and there's a
you're always worried about.
I have a little shrine, obviously, with just that particular body part as the focus. I'm thinking, I've jumped ahead, but I'm thinking particularly of the second goal. There was a big stretch required from him. I seem to recall as part of that movement. But before that, let's go back to the first goal. So Alexis gets both of them, of course. There was a great relief when he scored, which I think was 72 minutes. So as soon as you get to the 70th minute or more, you start worrying, don't you, if you haven't already scored. In our house, there was a suggestion that Mesut Ozil should have been taken off, not by me, but by my other half, because his temperament was starting to be a bit of a factor. He was having a bit of a contretemps, I think, with one of the Sunderland players. I can't remember which one. But of course, then he manages to he unpicked the defence, which is the reason I suggested he should stay on. So I gave myself a point for that. But Matt, yeah, nice to see Alexis get what at the time was a particularly vital goal.
Yeah, he's been in really good form towards the end of this season. Was this? I mean, my memory is not great. Was this the goal where Xhaka chipped over to Ozil, who squared it?
Yes, that's right. So I was going to come to Xhaka, but yeah, Xhaka certainly was you could argue the key as much as Ozil was. Yes. Yeah.
So Sunderland have obviously been pretty tight and compact, and probably three of our best players combined when we needed them to, and Alexis sort of in the striker role to finish it. And once we got that goal, I guess we pretty much felt we were there. You didn't ever feel Sunderland would get back into it from there.
Yep, that's it. And you've mentioned Xhaka, so we'll bring that up now. There was a lot of Xhaka love, for want of a better phrase, sort of after the game, people noting how well he played and how he seemed to be perhaps slightly late, but settling into his particular role. Pete, was that an impression you got being there on the night?
Yeah, I think definitely he's and it's been over the last few games as well, hasn't it? But he is settling into that role. And just coming back to the goal, I think it was his ball to Ozil that really made it. And I think what was telling is as soon as you saw the pass and the fact that it was going to land perfectly for Ozil, you just knew there was a very good chance for goal and almost certainly. Partly because it was a beautiful pass and partly because it's going to Ozil when you know he's just going to control it and stick it into the middle. And fortunately there was someone there to knock it in. So I think his part in that is not overplayed. It was an excellent ball.
Okay, well let's unless anyone else has anything they desperately need to say on that game, let's move on to the next one, because as I think Pete said at the start of that little bit, it was a 2-0 win over Sunderland, bit of frustration. We controlled the game, good goalkeeper, and but we got there in the end. So let's not tarry on that one. But let's move on to the game against Everton, which took place yesterday. We're doing this on Monday evening. So the situation was, if we beat Everton and Liverpool did not beat Borough, we would be in the top four. And for about 40 glorious minutes, 35 glorious minutes, it was happening. Sky do that horrible, unpleasant thing where they put the as it stands table up on the screen, so just for the optimists amongst us, just to really rub it in, and we were looking quite good, but then a number of things happened which really we could have done without. So where do we start with it? I mean, in terms of the team news, Matt, pretty strong team, really, wasn't it? Pretty much the team would have expected, I think.
Yeah. Koscielny back in the middle. It was a strong team. I think Mustafi was out with illness, but started as a strong team and perhaps did not finish by the end of the day anywhere near as strong as we were.
No, and I've heard today that Mustafi, he got a concussion against Sunderland, which is why he didn't play yesterday, and there's actually doubt about him for Saturday in the cup final as well.
Oh,
so just to add to the to the rest of it, it was a pretty strong team with the odd injury noted, but yes. Well, let's cut to the chase. We took the lead early on through Bellerin, which is lovely, but after 20-something minutes, we lost Koscielny, and perhaps lost isn't the right word. He abandoned the team quite dramatically, because I don't know what it'd be interesting to see what Pete's view was, because you were there, I think, for this one. But certainly my first glance at looking at it was, oh, that's a bit tight. Then I saw it from the reverse angle, and to be frank, there was no doubt at all. It was just an appalling tackle. Can't believe they didn't, anyone would argue about it being a red card. I know players do it automatically, but Pete, any view from your sort of position?
I didn't have a good enough view, I'm afraid.
No, I know it's in the wrong place from where you would be, but
I didn't see the challenges. I shall do a banger and admit that I have absolutely no idea, and I haven't seen any replays of it either. So, but yeah, I mean, it seemed likely that there was good reason for sending him off.
Yeah, well, if you haven't had the chance to see it yet, I would recommend it, but from sort of between your fingers, basically, because there's just I don't know what came over him. I mean, I don't want to say he has these moments of madness, because every player does that, don't they, to some extent or another, but it was just crazy in this particular situation. I mean, no, I suppose he's not thinking as he's going in, if I could time this wrong, I'm going to miss the cup final, but it was so badly timed. Matt, what did you any ideas what he might have been thinking as he was going in for that tackle?
No, it was one of those, as he sort of launched himself, you're thinking, no, don't, and as is standard, when a referee gives a red card, you have those 10 seconds where you persuade yourself it's a terrible decision, and then having seen the replay, you sort of grimace and think, yeah, I can probably accept that was a definite red card. It's not as though it was late in the game and he had to stop the counter-attack. I mean, I know they were breaking, but didn't need to do it. We were in control of the game. We could have really done without that, if not for the rest of the game, definitely for the cup final.
Yeah, it's the 14th minute. I hadn't something in my brain had it happening a little bit later than that, but the 14th minute he's doing that. That's after Arsenal, Bellerin, of course, have scored in the 8th. But so
there's no chance of appealing it.
No. Unless they get a blind panel of FA members or whoever it is that does it. No, I mean, it was just. On the other one hand, I suppose you've got nothing to lose, but no, they would look at you like you were a complete simpleton if you turned up on the day. Yeah, I'd like to appeal that, please. It's a shame. I mean, apart from the idiocy of the challenge, it is a shame that he's out for the cup final for himself as much as for the team, obviously. But on the basis of what we saw, I don't think anyone can disagree with what happened. And it was a bit disappointing that the fans were booing Valencia, weren't they? Perhaps people who hadn't quite seen it, sort of thinking he'd made the most of it, but no, he really didn't. But anyway, we'll move on for the moment. Things didn't go bad straight away though, because we scored after the 27th minute. Alexis scored, and the Everton team appeared to sort of stop, slightly oddly, and didn't seem to. Were expecting an offside or something. Pete, this would be at your end, I think. Any thoughts on that one in particular?
The second goal?
Yeah.
No, not really. Sorry.
It was just.
I was thinking about something else, so apologies for that. I was thinking about my biggest impression of the game, being that Everton appeared to be a team who were determined not to score. I know they did score one, but even then, I found that I was watching the game just thinking, these guys really don't want to score, do they? Whatever. So, but the second goal was, I'm trying to remember.
It was the Sanchez tap in after Sanchez hit to Welbeck. Welbeck had been saved, and Sanchez sort of followed up, and everyone else had seemed to stop. Well, the Everton players certainly slowed down, but that might fit in with your recollection of them perhaps not giving 100%, should we say? Yeah,
I certainly got that impression in general from Everton. I mean, when you look back on the game that we played against them at Goodison Park, and this was a very different approach that they were taking as far as I could see. And maybe that was all part of the second goal as well.
Well, so 2-0 up as you approach half-time, things looking pretty good. Then it all started to go wrong. Not necessarily just at the Emirates. The first sign there was something going on potentially dodgy was in the Liverpool-Middlesbrough game, which, Matt, I don't know if you were looking at, but Borough had that penalty shout. I mean, Liverpool were all over Borough, but about halfway through the first half, I think it was, Bamford went down in the box, and it could have been given, as they say. Wasn't. Then Liverpool have scored, of course, just before half-time, and once they score, you think, well, that's probably going to be that anyway. And then in the second half, Although Arsenal still won the game, we lost Gabriel to what looked like a nasty knee injury. Matt, any thoughts at all on the sort of? Were you keeping an eye on the Liverpool game? At what point did you give up? It's what were you up to?
I was both of them. Liverpool dominating that first half. They were sort of starting to get frustrated, and then Lovren. I mean, I'd say it probably was a penalty from my completely neutral position. And I'd say it should have been a red card too, but who knows? And then, so it's 0-0 there. And then on my timeline, a lot of journalists at the Liverpool game started to tweet how Liverpool were nervous and this might not be their day. And as soon as they tweeted that, knew they'd probably jinxed it. And lo and behold, within 2 minutes, Wijnaldum scored. And I mean, Middlesbrough not exactly free scoring, so I think we all feared the worst from that point.
I think that's it, isn't it? I thought if they get to half-time, there's a chance, because they'd had their moments at Borough, very, very few and far between, but they had the odd moment. But yeah, as soon as that goal goes in, I'm sort of, well, that's that. And to put this into context, of course, before the matches happened yesterday, I think us three and probably a huge percentage of the Arsenal fans would have thought top 4 spot at this point is very unlikely. But of course, you're there on the day. There's always that possibility. So your optimism does perhaps sneak out from somewhere and show itself. Only to be very swiftly put back behind the door. But Pete, was there any? I know there's always these rumours at the stadium, but I remember the 2006 and the whole Spurs West Ham thing while we were beating Wigan got a bit crazy. But was there anything going on yesterday at the stadium that was of interest? I'm wondering if there was any kind of buzz or just an acceptance,
really.
Was
some anti-Kroenke chants. That was about it of any real interest. But I think the crowd have been great at the last 2 games, both the Everton game and the Sunderland game. I know there was no one at the Sunderland game, but the people who were there were great. It was, they made a lot of noise, actually, particularly in the second half as we started to get into the match and looked like we were going to win it. They were really good. The whole crowd were really good, and they were great in the last game against Everton as well. So, no, I think it all felt pretty positive again. Even I think people did just seem to be concentrating on wanting to see the team play well and win the game, and were worried when we went down to 10 men, etc., and were just wanting to get behind the team and get them over the line, whatever. No one really, I don't think there was any sense of really caring what was happening at Anfield. And because I think that most people were resigned to that to not getting top 4 anyway, but just wanted to win the game, wanted to get on with things and see the team play well as they could have been doing in a number of other games this season.
Well, I like the idea of being positive, so we'll end on a positive on this bit, which is all right. Everton did get a penalty back through Lukaku, but in the 90th minute, nice moment. Obviously, by then everyone knew what was happening. Liverpool were thrashing Borough, and Man City, who we haven't mentioned, of course, got their thrashing in early. They were was it 3? Was it 4 at half time? I can't remember. They were miles ahead anyway, so they were never really in the equation. But the goal from Ramsey was a nice way to finish. Nice sort of turn on. Planted it into the top corner in the last minute. Matt, I enjoyed that. Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, great goal. Certainly a player that divides opinion, but I think he's been really impressive since we've gone to 3 at the back. Got forward a lot and has been playing more like the player we saw a few seasons ago. And that was a great goal to round the league season off pretty well, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was a nice way to finish. Pete, you've just got me thinking. So you, I'm sure you enjoyed that goal, but B, the lap of appreciation. Any thoughts on that? The story sort of today was that Wenger didn't actually walk around with the players; he stayed sort of off at the side. But any thoughts on the goal and aftermath?
The goal, lovely goal, and much deserved from Ramsey. It's a shame he hasn't got a couple more before now, but it was a great goal and just desserts for, as Matt says, the good performances he's put in recently. I was almost going to choose it as one of my moments of the season, but I shall leave that one. And the lap of appreciation. The main thing I was a bit annoyed about was the Santi Cazorla's little boy wasn't there.
Hang on, you might have to explain that because that sounds slightly weird.
Oh well, he was brilliant last year. He was
Okay,
brilliant.
good.
He was the best thing about the lack of appreciation by miles.
Is he tall?
he wasn't there.
Is he taller than Santi Cazorla yet?
No, he's tiny, but he's really good at football.
Oh, I see. He was showing his
And
skills.
he runs around with a little baseball cap on and does tricks and all sorts.
Oh, really?
He's nice.
In that case, I understand why you were sorry to miss him. But was Santi there then?
No, Santi wasn't there.
So he wasn't there at all. Okay, there was no.
He wasn't there, and so therefore his little boy wasn't there.
Okay.
David Ospina's daughter looks like she's very good at cartwheels.
Right, good. This is the kind of stuff you don't get on Match of the Day, you see.
Yeah, good to note these things.
Ramsey's little boy, I think it's boy. He's looks quite a talent as well.
we should get in there.
Looking a few years into the future, when Matt's as old as us two, then
Ramsey Jr. will already have had his leg broken by some Stoke idiot by then. Okay, great. Well, let's leave that there. I think that a little bit of local colour there. Very nice. What should we do? Well, very quickly look ahead to the cup final. I mean, obviously it's a week away-ish. We've got a bit of time to see what happens throughout the week in terms of teaming, so we won't go into detail now. But I think the obvious point to make is the defence. So no Koscielny. I'm assuming no Gabriel after yesterday, and I'm assuming also the suggestion today was no Mustafi. Now we did see Mertesacker back yesterday, of course, which was nice to see. But funnily enough, we talked about him I think just last week or maybe the week before about his suitability for the current system we've got. Matt, I don't know, any thoughts about this? Are we ironically going to move from a 3 at the back against Chelsea, given that they went 2 or 3 at the back after we beat them in the league in what seems like 15 years ago? Or are we going to stick with what we've got and put people in? I mean, obviously we've still got players who can do that. We've got Monreal, we've got Holding, of course, who can sort of get in the right place. At this early stage, any thoughts?
I don't know. I don't know how much of a change it is and how much adapting is needed, like from a positional point of view and stuff like that. To whether changing 4 at the back to 4 at the back in the space of a week would be risky when we've been playing with a fair bit of confidence and success with 3 at the back. I think, as you said, our glorious club captain Mertesacker can slot back in, and then I guess you play Holding next to him. Monreal we've seen play at left centre back in the 3 at times this season, with Gibbs and Bellerin as your wing back. So I guess we do have the option to still do that, and I think that's probably what Wenger will do rather than reverting to 4 at the back again.
I was hoping it would be 3 at the back. I think. I was just wondering if that was a possibility. Of course, Mertesacker, the current captain, playing against future captain, playing alongside, I should say, future captain Rob Holding, as far as Pete will be concerned. Pete, do you see? I suppose to put it a slightly different way, do you see the lack of those 3 defenders I've mentioned being a significant problem against Chelsea? I know it seems like a silly question, but do you think we can manage basically without those 3?
Well, it's going to limit our options. I mean, I was going to say actually that in the last 2 games we have reverted to a back 4 in both those games and won them. We started with a back 3, but in both of them we've ended up playing a back 4. So I think that was quite nice to see that we've still got the ability to play a back 4. I think, and I'm almost wondering with the situation as dire as it is in terms of central defence, if maybe I'm not saying it would be the right idea, but maybe we will be starting with a back 4.
Well, it would be interesting to see. I mean, I just mentioned the defence as a sort of interest, a point of interest, really, given all the things that seemed to happen in a relatively short space of time yesterday. In general, then, what about the cup final? I mean, in terms of we can have a prediction, if you like, from everyone. Obviously, we have beaten Chelsea this season. Not many people have. It was a long time ago, but we did do it. We need our top players to be absolutely firing, of course. Sanchez seems to be in a pretty decent run of form at the moment, which is nice. Matt, you willing to make a prediction or any other comments on the final at this point?
I guess it's hard to tell what kind of form Chelsea are in. I know they've conceded a fair few in the last couple of games, but I think they've been playing very differently, different players, and probably having a lot more fun than they have done. So I imagine they'll be back to how we've seen them for most of the season for the cup final. I don't know. It's good to see Ozil and Sanchez have been in good form. I think they have to be at their best for us to do well. And Czech's in the last couple of months has been really good too.
Absolutely.
He's come back to form, and so if those three can turn up again and we can muster a defence of any form, then yeah, I think we can win. I'm not sure about a prediction. But yeah, I'll go 2-1 Arsenal.
Okay. Of course, this assumes we won't have to stop after 26 minutes for a.
Oh, of course.
I can't believe that happened still. Well, actually, I can believe it happened because it was Chelsea and John Terry, and that's not a massive surprise. And then when he came out today, and it was maybe yesterday, and said it was his idea. Again, it was like, well, that's not really a surprise, is it, John? If it was any other,
not surprised.
No, I might not expect that, but there we go. Yes, but I'm assuming he won't be. Well, I'm sure he'll be somewhere in the stadium and ready with his kit on. If Chelsea is successful, I think 2-1 is a reasonable shot. I mean, obviously, my mind goes back to game I was lucky enough to be at, the Ray Parlour final, as I like to call it. When obviously Arsenal were a different team then, but that was a great day out in Cardiff, and that was a great result. I'd love to say 2-0 to Arsenal. I think the one thing we might have is a bit more experience in terms of, well, not more experience over the last few years of playing well and ultimately winning at Wembley, or playing, doing well enough to win the trophy on a couple of occasions. So I've got to say an Arsenal win, particularly as I'm going. I would take a 1-0 scrappy last minute Rob Holding, a near post header from a corner or something. Pete, thoughts, predictions?
I think I'm going in hope more than expectation. I think is the best way to put it. But I do believe that should we be able to cobble together a defence that will allow us to play as well, offensively speaking, as we have recently, I think we have a decent chance of. But I think it will be. If we do win it, I think it'll be similar to the Man City game, where it's probably going to be against the run of play most of the time.
All right. Well, we should probably take our boots just on the off chance, because there are more defensive injuries between now and then. All right. Great. Well, look, obviously we'd like to. I think the thing we'd like to say there is we'd like to win the game, but we appreciate it's not going to be Aston Villa as it was a couple of years ago. So there obviously is a significant difference there in terms of the opposition. Okay. Great. I was going to mention the whole ownership stuff that came up this week, but it seems to have been very much quashed anyway, the idea of Usmanov making a bid for some shares a month or so ago, and then Kroenke's come out today and said my shares aren't for sale. The plan is, because we've done quite a bit of time today anyway, the plan is next week, because there's only the cup final to review, and particularly if we've lost, we won't want to talk about it very long. So then we have a bit more of a meaty, what about the owners, the manager, the players, Europa League, what do we need to do over the summer, what's going to happen, all that kind of stuff we'll do next week. But I thought, as a sort of a taster, an hors d'oeuvre, a little starter for us, we are going to do. We're just going to pick two of our moments from the season. Now, these moments can be anything. They could be a game, a goal, a player, something on the pitch, something off the pitch. I suggested we all had two, so we could pick a good and a bad one, but there's no rule. You don't have to pick two. Anyone who can find two good ones, then you get a prize. But we'll take it in turns to do them, and then we can have a chat about them if we want to. I'm going to be cheeky and take a prerogative and go first, with my first one. And my first one is the first game of the season, actually, the Liverpool losing to Liverpool at home, for two reasons. One, slightly selfishly, because it was the first game we did when we did a pod, because this was our new pod, and that was the first one we had to discuss, which at the time wasn't very happy about, but I think it gave us plenty to talk about, because it was certainly eventful. But more for me, it was the kind of, here we go again. It was like, there you are in August, there's lovely fresh grass in front of you, there's sunshine, there's everyone's looking optimistic, and then I mean, bear in mind we only lost by 1 goal, but of course we were 4-1 down, weren't we? I think not very far from the end of that game. So it was that kind of, is it going to be the same again? And it sort of has turned out a bit like that. The season hasn't worked out, as anyone would really want it to. So that was my first one. It was the somewhat disappointing Liverpool game, and then everything else that came from it. Pete, any thoughts on that one in particular?
On the Liverpool game?
Yeah, that first game of the season. Did it engender any feelings in you of here we go again?
No, it didn't. But I do accept that it was stupid of us not to be ready to play Liverpool on the first game of the season, and we plainly weren't. And you look back now, and you know that. One more goal in that game or one less goal for Liverpool, and we would be in fourth place. So. We
would, yeah. I mean, I think it's easy for me to say it with hindsight, of course, what an important game that was. But I'm fairly certain at the time I was thinking that, well, this is irritating. This is not the way to start the season, basically. Matt, any views on that one? Obviously, you were there for the first pod as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually a recurring theme that we're not really ever ready for the first game of the season. We only really seem to acknowledge the season starts once the transfer window closes, by which point we've usually dropped a fair few points. And it's certainly a problem that needs to be addressed, because, I mean, last summer in particular, before the Liverpool game, we were already missing Ozil, Koscielny, players who'd come back late from international duty. So we knew that was going to happen. So there was even more onus on us to be ready and to ensure the players we wanted to bring in were there. But we didn't. And with hindsight, an extremely costly defeat.
It was. Right. That's my first one. I'll do my second one at the end, so you two can get going. Now we're going to have something very exciting now. Matt, I want you to call heads or tails.
Tails.
Tails. Well, that's my 50p. Tails it is. So there you go. Live coin tossing. You don't get that many odds. So Matt, you do yours. Then Pete, you can do both of yours afterwards. So Matt, what's one of your moments?
My moment of the season, and not particularly cheery, although looking back, it's quite humorous. Theo Walcott's interview post Crystal Palace.
Okay.
Crystal Palace obviously lost 3-0. The low point, the lowest of the lows of our run, and I think he was our captain for the day, was wheeled out to say Crystal Palace just wanted it more. I don't think he's been seen since he said those comments, but it just marks a very general trend we have throughout the club of sometimes just don't say anything. We seem to make things a lot worse through press conferences. Every time the player has a good game against us, Wenger will come out and say we could have signed him when he was like 19 or whatever. It's just sometimes silence would be better, but we could do without the honesty. And I think that just summed up, the players weren't up for it. That was our low point of the season, but sort of disregard for what their words were actually meaning and how it would come across.
No, I like that. Yeah, I mean, the Palace game in general was one of my possible other moments. Walcott was indeed the captain, although he came off after 68 minutes. It's an interesting point, actually, because it ties into this thing that Graham Souness said about how Arsenal players were like potential son-in-laws, which is they're all very nice, but he doesn't want that in a football team. He wants people with a bit of bite and fire and passion, all the rest of it. Now, I always think that's slightly overplayed, but that perhaps is on that same kind of continuum where there's someone that they're trying to do the right thing, they're trying to be nice, but actually it's a misfire, if you like. It's an own goal, to excuse the pun. So yeah, I like that. That's well, I don't like it, obviously. it was extremely irritating, but it's a good moment that sums up quite a bit of the season, particularly that game, which, as you say, was the complete kind of nadir really of this year. Pete, any thoughts on that one before you get into yours?
I was just thinking about mine, I'm afraid. It just put me right off. I'm sorry.
Well, that's all right. Tell you what, we'll time's pressing on, so let's do one or both of yours together, or however you want to do it.
Has Matt had one?
Yes. So you're going to get two now, and then he's going to have one, and I'm going to have my last one. There you go.
I can do both of mine.
Go on then.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
Mine are consecutive final whistles.
Oh, there you go. It works even better. Go on then.
So the first final whistle would be Southampton versus Arsenal in the FA Cup on 28th of January, where we won 5-0 with a fairly exuberant team, let's say, with a hat-trick for Walcott, 2 for Welbeck. Lucas was playing, he started.
Yeah, Lucas.
Maitland-Niles was playing. Rob Holding, obviously, was playing. Why we got the nil. Why we got the clean sheet. Gibbs was playing. Bellerin, Ospina in goal. Oxlade-Chamberlain. And I just remember it being thoroughly enjoyable. I think we were all a bit worried going into it, being Southampton away, FA Cup. Don't have a great record at Southampton away, and we just blew them away 5-0. I mean, they did play a team of complete youngsters, as I remember, but that's not our fault. We went out and thrashed them roundly, and it was fantastic. And definitely one of the moments of the season that's led to us being in a cup final. However, the Tuesday after that, Tuesday evening, we were home to Watford and we lost 2-1. And for me, that's the moment where it all went a bit wrong. I think from that was the match for me that really turned the season. We then went on to play Chelsea and lose 3-1. We did come back against Hull, but then we were into the Bayern Munich debacle. And I don't know, I just look back at that Watford game and think if we had approached that in a better manner than we did, and even just got a draw, not a lose to them at home, I think we might have seen a very different season.
All right, good ones. I like that. I like the fact that I said I like the Southampton one. It's nice we had our first positive moment of the review, which is nice. I mean, Walcott did turn up for that one in early January. He got his hat trick there, and it was a great. I remember that being a particularly enjoyable performance. But for it to be 3 days later and completely the other end of the scale, to go 2-0 down after 13 minutes against Watford, that's a pretty sort of a real kick in the guts, isn't it? Really, that one.
Yeah, we thought we were going to be having another good night out on that Tuesday, and we'd had a great run up to then as well, to be honest, and I think we just took it far too easily. We weren't. Again, it was a bit like the Liverpool game in some ways. Just weren't prepared for it, really. I think, and after having done so well against Southampton, that was my most disappointing evening of the whole season.
Arsenal have been accused of this before, haven't they? Of taking foot off the gas. Indeed, I think a lot of the so-called bigger clubs are. But that was very encapsulated there, very obviously. Matt, any thoughts on either of those before you give us your second point?
Yeah, I think we all approached the Southampton game a bit nervously. As Pete said, our record there, before we had the 2 good results in the rest of the season, wasn't great, and especially with a weakened team, it was a really good result. As Pete said, leading to the birth of our saviour, Rob Holding. Always be looked back on fondly, but the Watford game was a bit crushing, well, very crushing. I think we got back to 2-1 quite early in the second half, but never really pushed on or looked like getting anything from that game. And I think at that point, it became quite clear that we're in danger of, at the same point in the season as many years before, of completely collapsing. And our season probably never recovered from that.
No, we were an uphill struggle after that, wasn't it? And then, as Pete noted, yes, we then lost to Chelsea and Munich, and we managed to, we showed Sutton and Lincoln where to go, but apart from that, we had trouble with pretty much everyone. All right, great. Matt, what's your second moment of the season?
Yeah, I looked long and hard to find some good moments. Wasn't as easy. I could have picked the easy route and gone for another bad one, but the highlight of this season, I think, looking back, will be Chris Sutton squawking in disgust as Mesut Ozil shrugged a non-league footballer off the ball. And Chris Sutton really pretty much demanding for Ozil to be sent off and suspended from all further footballing activity, and would not shut up about it. I think the fact it came from Ozil was even better. Always criticised for his lack of effort and hard work and physicality, and for him to just stroll over and knock the non-league player off the ball to the disgust of Chris Sutton, I think is a moment I'll always remember.
That's a good one. I mean, anything that upsets Chris Sutton. I don't know why Chris Sutton has decided to. Maybe this is what he's like, but to me, it almost seems like a persona that he doesn't seem to enjoy watching football of any description, which makes me think he's in the wrong line of work. But yes, it's enjoyable when someone's gets so wound up about something that they perhaps shouldn't be. Yes, Pete, any thoughts on Chris Sutton or any aspect of that?
Just very nice to be reminded of it. Thank you, Matt.
There we go, very good.
That
right.
was brilliant.
Well, I've got one to go then. Now, I was going to do the Palace game. That was one of my options, but I won't do that because it's already been noted. So it's a more general one, really, and I suppose it's not really positive or negative so much, but it's this idea of Arsenal obviously have not had the season we wanted to have. We've missed out on the Champions League for 20 years, but all you have to do, it won't take you very long to do this if you want to, and I wouldn't recommend it, but you go online and read some comments. Somebody very quickly would say, well, at least you're not Hartlepool, at least you're not some other team that's having problems, at least you're not whoever it might be who's going out of business. Now, I have great sympathy for anyone in those positions, well, most teams in those positions, but it's irrelevant because it's not our team. Our team is our team, and our team mean the same to us as other people's teams mean to them. So it just irks me that, yes, I think we all appreciate that 5th place in the Premier League and lots of money and a big stadium and good players and the rest of it is not terrible as things go, but our baseline isn't the same as other people's. We those of us, people who go to games pay a lot of money. Those of us who watch spend just as much time absorbing all the information and put our are emotionally involved in it in some way or another as well. So I don't know, it was just a slight whinge about other people's whinging. I suppose it was just this idea that somehow if you're in the Premier League or some elevated position, you're not allowed to feel the same way about your club. And that was my other point. I just wanted to mention that, so I'll leave it there, unless either of you have anything you like to add on that topic. Pete, anything in particular?
I'm not sure what I can add to that. I think I accept your point that everyone judges their team on the basis of of the stature of their own club. So our expectations might be different to others.
It's time not going to Hartlepool fans and saying, well, it doesn't matter for you. It's only you're not a very big team anyway. I mean, I wouldn't do that, but it's that would be the sort of equivalent. So anyway, Matt, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I hate that so much. Usually, you'll see a screenshot on Twitter of like a Leyton Orient fan forum whining about Arsenal fans thinking they have it hard. I mean, if Leyton Orient and Arsenal had the same budget, same players, same ticket prices, same history, then maybe we could judge them by the same parameters. But as it is, there is a golfing class between the teams, and therefore naturally a golfing expectations.
Okay, well we'll agree on that, and we'll leave that bit there. Okay, thank you very much for that. So that's our little start of our review. Now we'll do a lot more of that next week. As I say, we should have a lot more time to look at that, and we can just see what we think about, let's say, all our players of the season, what the manager should be doing. But one of the reasons I'm not doing that this week, of course, is because with the cup final next week, I don't think anything's that much is going to happen this week. But I think, and to be frank, probably not much will have happened by sort of next Monday. But it will at least give us a start, a bit of a chance to step back a bit, see what we thought of the way the season went, and have some thoughts about, Europa League, for example, and that kind of excitement that we have to look forward to next year. Sorry. I'm assuming, I don't know this, and I'm putting you both on the spot. I'm assuming we go straight into the group stage of the Europa League, given that our UEFA ranking thing must be quite good, unbelievably, given how
I should hope so. I mean, not to be too arrogant, but I'd be
Leighton
quite offended.
The Leighton Orient fans aren't going to like that approach.
If we have to start our season like mid-June in the 6th round qualified, I'm not going to be impressed.
I'm pretty sure we're going to be okay, but we'll perhaps find more out about that over the next couple of weeks. All right then. Well, look, we've gone for quite a while there, so I think we've covered everything. So,
well, I'll just say there is one thing we can look forward to this week, isn't there?
What?
Well, we can hope for a good Ajax performance.
Oh, yes, what do you call it? The Europa League. I can't forget the name. I must now learn about the Europa League.
I'm sure we'd much rather be playing in a competition in which Ajax were the holders.
Of course, yes, but of course whoever wins this won't be in this competition next year anyway, because they'll be, or unless they join after Christmas or whatever. So there we go, because they'll be in the Champions League, of course. But yes, well, we'll be rooting for Ajax on Wednesday night, but and I'm sure everyone listening will be. But all right, sorry, go on.
Most of the world, I imagine, will be.
Well, we'd like to think that. I'm not sure. It would be lovely, but we'll see how it goes. Ajax, I think, they have more European Cups. They have more European trophies than Man United. I saw somewhere this week. I don't know if that. I know they've got at least 3 European Cups off the top of my head. I'm not sure how many, but well, we'll keep our fingers crossed for that, certainly. But in the meantime, then, thank you very much for joining me, Pete.
Thank you, Matt. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Matt.
Thank you very much.
And we will be back next week for a sort of full roundup of the season, and as I say, all this chat about where we go from here. And for the moment, though, we'll wish you a good week. Fingers crossed for the Cup final on Saturday, and hopefully we'll have some good stuff to chat about next week. We'll see. Okay, take care. Thanks for listening. Speak to you soon. Bye bye.